Well, hello. Every gal needs a cowboy hat.
Scanning the room, you look for a familiar face. Everyone is a stranger. Your heart's racing, you feel nauseous. New plan. You meet 4 new people. Okay, 3. 2? You can handle 2. And then you think, I hate this. This just feels so fake. And before you talk to even 1 new person, you're looking for the nearest exit.
Okay. Crazy. Yo, who invited this chick?
My heart races when I walk into a room full of strangers, too. Except it's not anxiety, it's excitement. I'm not thinking networking quota. I'm thinking, look at all these stories. And I get so pumped about talking to people that I don't know.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Stories. Now, most manufacturers don't know how to share their story, and that's where I come in. My name is Gail Robertson, and I'm the Chief Curiosity Officer of GailNow because, well, curiosity is my superpower. I teach manufacturers how to tell their story using a simple 3-step process. Sign up, suit up, and show up. Because in our current digital age, showing up online is so vital. It is part of our whole fabric of our society, of how we are now communicating, especially in this new world that we are in, where we are now needing to communicate in so many other ways. Today, we have a very special guest that is definitely someone who knows how to show up. He's definitely someone who has marched to a different beat at times, and definitely the king of one-liners. So we're going to be hearing some great things from him today. He is also known as the manufacturing unicorn. So I know there's stories behind that as well. Showing up is such a valuable part of what Ray Ziganto does in his world of business and on social. And we actually met because of social media and networking. And I am just so privileged to bring him on stage. And without further ado, just a minute, I need his lead-in song. Welcome, Ray.
Wow, it's hard to top the Godfather of Soul. Hey, Gail, so great to be here. How are you doing today?
There we go. Had some music going. I was getting into that song maybe a little too much, I tell you.
I get it. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you are back. Here we are. I don't think you left though, so
Nope.
You've been here. So
Nope,
before we start, I do want to say that we've had some people, some early birds that already jumped in to say hello. We have Nikki Gonzalez says hello, friends.
All right.
We have John Buglino. John, I love John is like shows up. So he is amazing. He is the biggest supporter of so many things, you know, from a marketing perspective and manufacturing. So hello, John. Inger is here. Inger's also behind the scenes working. She's just double duty. Amazing. She definitely shows up. And we have Allison DeFord.
Oh,
just a minute. I'm trying to look at that emoji she has
it's a
dropped.
unicorn.
Oh my God, it's a unicorn. I was looking for that emoji, I think. So Allison, I'll have to copy. Oh yeah, it is the unicorn. Okay.
There you go.
And Bonnie Sussman Strominger's in. Woo, woo.
Holy cow.
We've got this is an exciting one. You have your fan base, I think. And then there's all the people that haven't yet commented that are, you know, just I think they're sitting back going, whoa, the unicorn.
Oh, I don't know about that. These are the people I'll go into battle with any day of the week.
Well, welcome, Ray. I am
Thank
super
you.
excited. Ray was also part of a panel that I had worked on with the Canadian Association of Mold Makers, where we did a lot of work around, expanding your reach in this digital world. So let's just jump right in. And you are known as a manufacturing unicorn. So let's hit that right on the head. And I believe Allison was a key part of that name. Can you maybe give a bit of explanation? And also, maybe I understand you were maybe a little reluctant at first about having that moniker.
I guess it's like getting a nickname as a kid. If it's a good one, you don't mind. And this one, I guess I had to grow into it to own it, although perhaps it was there the whole time. But Allison, I had the great good fortune to connect with Allison early in my new business career, which was branching out on my own. And we spent a lot of time engaging across LinkedIn and having just some other conversations. For a while there, we would just connect with each other once a week to talk about manufacturing and how we could rule the world. We weren't sure where it was going to go, but we talked to each other about it. And ultimately, she dropped that on me because initially it was because I was the first manufacturer she met that really understood the value of marketing in the manufacturing world. And she was the first marketer that I met that really understood manufacturing. So between the two of us, I, to this day, continue to learn from her. She is the Wonder Woman on the marketing side of things, and has evolved into not just a podcast partner and a mentor, but an awesome friend as well. So with that combination, I gladly own the manufacturing unicorn moniker. So
I love that story, especially the connection between marketing and sales. And I know we're going to talk to also about operations, because it's all the pieces of the puzzle, right, that come together. And I'm a recovering journalist that crossed over into marketing. And yes, it's so vital, to bring also, like what I always say, I bring that sort of fresh perspective because I don't come from manufacturing, so I can see the stories. And there's so many great stories.
Oh yeah.
Well,
They're so close to it. There's a phrase that resonates with me and has for many years. It's position determines perspective. And for most manufacturers, they're just so close to it. They forget what cool looks like to other people, because it may take a lot to really amaze them. But the things that the manufacturers do on a daily basis, there are stories happening every hour of every day that matter to the market they want to reach. So I'm with you, and I think you're doing a great service helping tell those stories.
Yes, and I love that about the position, because sometimes we're so close to things, and I face this on a regular basis with a wide variety of clients. Is that I'll go, that's a great story, and I often say, listen, if I'm saying it's a great story, believe me, because like I don't come out of the industry and I'm like, wow, that's really interesting. And this is the other thing I want to talk about too, is that looking at how to get the manufacturing stories beyond only the manufacturing world too, because when we look at supply chain issues and the impact that manufacturing has had on our world, can you maybe talk about that from your global travels as well, of what's happening now with supply chain and how we may need to expand those stories beyond our own manufacturing world?
Well, there's no shortage of opinions, theories, and data around, hey, what got us into the jam, what's getting us out of it. The stories there are around the manufacturers that figured out how to navigate such a shock to the system, to their operating environment. And that's where a lot of the stories are coming from. Believe it or not, it's manufacturers that have successfully navigated this. And I know it's not easy. I don't mean to make it to minimize it in any way, but some of the best stories that are out there, if you've managed to navigate these incredible, unprecedented times, by definition, you have a story that not only your current customers need to hear, but your targeted customers. It's like, hey, targeted customer, the world dropped this turd in our punch bowl and we figured it out. you know, and, you know, and so, you know, by virtue of doing that, you've demonstrated some agility and some resilience. And instead of looking at, whoo, we dodged that bullet, let's hide under a rock and hope it never happens again. It's like, wow, embrace it, document it, tell the story to your people. Look what we did together. And this is now part of the fabric of our overall story. You know, years from now, people in that business are going to be referring back to, hey, remember the pandemic and how we got around that, how we not only helped our community, we helped our customer, and we stood by each other. You know, there are a million of those stories out there that should be told. And here's what we did to mitigate risk for the next time. You know, I can go on.
That is, you know what, Ray, that is so helpful, I think, for so many people that may be listening to, they're sitting on all these stories. And I think, you know, we all do this. And I always say, from my days as a reporter, I would often call people and they'd say, I don't really know why you're calling me. I don't have a story. And then I'd be like, oh my God, they have the best stories ever. Right.
Yeah.
And I often use this line, and people have heard me say this many times, is that, you know, if a tree falls in the forest and you don't document it, you don't talk about it, it's the only two people maybe, or it may just be you, that you cut down the tree and that's it. No one else knows about it.
One of the best things, you know, back in the day when I was, you know, in operations, running a job shop and those types of things, we were going down the path of a rebranding exercise. And I knew, and I sensed at the time, that our culture was going to play an important role in that, so that we saw ourselves in this rebranding effort. And I remember sitting down with a cross section of not only the leadership team, but some of the long tenured operation staff. And we just had a conversation about culture. And it was internal, telling stories. What were some of the highlights of working here? You know, what were some of the things? And it was, hey, remember when, you know, when so-and-so got sick and, you know, didn't know what to do. And the owner stepped up and, you know, yeah, the rule book said you'd be paid for a couple of weeks, and the owner said, screw it, send him his check until he comes back. You know, and some things like that were the real stories of the company, and and just kicking those things around. And that time we took an order that we shouldn't have, and somebody came in on the weekend and figured out that if you sprinkled baby powder on the strip steel, it would process better. Or, you know, there were crazy things like that. Well, what does that story say? It says you're innovative. You know, so there's so much. You really need to have those conversations from time to time. Hell, we did it when we were living in caves. I'm sure they sat around the fire talking about stuff, you know, and shared experiences and memories. Why wouldn't you do it now? You know, why did we stop? You know,
that is, and I want to come back to that of why did we stop, because we're going to talk about the tools. But before we go on, we have some comments are kind of blowing up a bit. So I think what we'll do is we're going to go in reverse and share some of them, because so it's topical, and go back because we have some really great things. So, so John just wrote, too many focus on the highlight reel, talk about the bloopers. So yes, people, oh my God, do you not love bloopers so much? We love those. We want to know. The other thing is, you know, and I think Allison talks about this, you know, you want to make your you know, who's the hero in the story, right? The customer. How can you do that? And sometimes means us, like we have to make those mistakes to figure them out. But
I'll speak to that one right now. If you check, did you see the post they did today with the guy in the jetpack that does the big loop and he's flying into warp? I've done that several times in my career. I have been that guy. So sometimes it's, you know, you stub your toe a couple of times and you figure out real quick the way not to do that. So you definitely have to own it in a constructive way. You know, you can't lead with, boy, did we screw this customer over once.
That's where you need a good marketing person to come in and help tell the story, right?
Bingo.
So sharing the story is key. So let's go back. So we have, and then David Kreiser wrote, John, you got it. Time to be real. And we'll talk about that, about being real too. We'll go back. Bonnie Sussman wrote, transparency is very powerful. Agreed. I think when we can get to that, Allie is here. Allie Donnelly's in the house. She said perfectly, said Ray. I know she said something. You said, and Allie is a young woman in manufacturing that was also a guest on my show talking about, some of the pitfalls and issues facing also young people and especially young women. But Allie is going strong. Yeah, and then Bonnie writes, "Well said. I share all of the gory details, and we'll talk more about that too. How gory we really want to get." We have a few comments in saying hello. Oh, Megan Ziampa's in the house too.
All right.
She said, "Oh, you have a killer mustache." Boom.
Thank you.
Boom. Allison, he's humble. Oh, he's humble and sees patterns that you can't see and identifies how to solve the problems now, not in a year.
There is that.
A big fan there. Thank you, Allison. And we'll talk more about, because I love your podcast. You guys rock it. I love too your sense of humor and the back and forth. It's great. We also have, so Ingrid's here. James Kunkel is here. James Kunkel, thank you for stopping by. We have David. Oh, Marcus Moldovan is in the house now. Marcus, hello, Marcus. I know Marcus I know him in real life. So through his wife, Danielle. So, who works at a local restaurant, Wolfhead Distillery too. So
a bar.
A bar, of course.
Surprising no one.
Of course, I would know someone connected to a bar. Then we have, so Allison also said, Ray bridges the gap like no one else. And Bonnie said she's wearing her manufacturing trailblazer t-shirt today. Well earned. And that brings us back to, I think, the start. Yeah. So thank you everybody for dropping comments. Please continue. Oh, we have a new one from Katie McDermott who said, "Sorry, I'm late." You're not late. You know what? It's live. Everybody, whenever you arrive, it's great. So happy to see you again. Okay. So thank you, Katie, again. So it's amazing how when you see people and you know them from Twitter as well as LinkedIn, and it's so great. Marcus, hi Marcus again. So Marcus, we saw each other at the Amerimole convention, and also we're both karaoke people too. So, but that's a story for another day. So, okay, let's go back to, we talked about looking at the tools. So we left off with, let's go to the next topic, which I want to approach is people who say, well, I don't have time for social media, but I'm very busy with my cold calls and sending emails.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ray?
That's fingernails on the chalkboard to me. I think, Darren Mitchell, who we know from Mitchell Industries and Manufacturing Masters now, he made the observation. He says, you know what, our market, the people we want to engage with, they live here. They live on their phones. So yeah, email is always going to be part of it. But the reality is, we're in a world where in every aspect we want an answer now. We want an opinion or some direction now. We want to get a measure or get a feel of an organization. We do so much more research now about a buying decision that we're going to make. I think it's something like 70+% of the buying cycle, the research thing, happens online before anybody even ever reaches out to talk to a salesperson. So just by looking at the data, which in a manufacturing environment, if you're not looking at the data, what are you doing? So looking at the data, why wouldn't you be there? You have to. It's not an option. It's not going away, is the thing. And I think, and we talked about this a little bit before the show started, there is still, I think, a school of thought on the sales side that everybody I talk to, reach out to, cold call, send an email to, is a potential customer of mine. And the prospect of not making that one more cold call because that could be the one that's the $1 million order, I think is such a crock of shit. I'm waiting for Inger to put that one up.
You can put that up.
The reality is, the more that you own your lane, and focus on that. The beauty of social media and all the platforms, let the market self-select. I am not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not for everybody, and I'm fine for that, because I don't want to start a relationship with a client that's predisposed to be mad at me, not like me, not trust me. Let's get all of that out of the way. It's not good for anybody. Okay, so that notion of self-selecting, that's what social media helps you do. It also helps you own what your lane is, and be there for the customers when they are in the market and actively looking. They know who to go talk to because you've established a rapport with them. So, end of rant.
You know what, that is, but it is so true. And there was a line up there that said, I know I often use this. I say, I may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I may be your shot at tequila.
There you go. There you go. That is
and
you.
I think it is so true. And one of the things that in my 3-step process that I talk about, the first step is signing up. When I'm working with clients, and it is true, it's not that all comers, it really has to be people who are already saying they are ready and they want to increase their business, they want to make change, and they want to live in, now I say 2022, because if you're living in 2022 and not using social as part of a sales process, then if you want to make change, you have to have the right mindset and say, I'm signing up and I want to step up to the plate and go to the next step, which is suit up, which is why I'm doing the show too and having guests like you that will, because you're giving so much wisdom here. You've lived this.
Well, the hardest lesson to learn, I think, for any business person is that it's okay to say no. I mean, you can still be friends. You can still be professional. You can still add value to each other. But from a business standpoint, it's like you have to know what is not a good fit. And like you, my belief is that after doing this for so long, there has never been a better time to be in manufacturing than right now. And my target audience, I want to work with the manufacturing leaders that really want it. Because if you really want to get to next, me too, and I can help you get there. That's my audience. If you're kicking tires, not sure if you need me to convince them, enjoy my content, but we're never going to do business,
And as for myself too, that is bang on, Ray, because with social media, if you don't see the value of it at this point in time, you're going to be stuck probably doing cold calls and emails. And even if you're even if you're okay right now, I would say you don't want the well to go dry. It's a lot harder to prime that pump when there's no more leads and everybody's way down the road ahead of you.
Well, I've been in so many situations like that. And I still see them today where it's like, you've got to sales and business development and growth for a manufacturing company has to be a managed process. I'm going to say that again. Sales and business development and marketing, it has to be an integrated and a managed process. It can't be something where it's like, oh, we're full. Tell the salespeople to go in back and help pack boxes. And then when the orders fall off, hey, get out there and get us some more work. Well, the buying cycle doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, it's like, you get this roller coaster effect, and you don't have to. It doesn't have to be that way. And a lot of times it's because nobody's ever invited operations into the room to have a conversation when you're talking about this growth stuff. So that's part of it. So there should always be a pipeline to either drive diversification, manageable growth, testing out new innovations. That's business today.
Yes, that pipeline is so key. And that's where the third step, which is showing up, you need to keep showing up. And sometimes even when you're saying you don't feel like it, that's where that consistency comes in, being able to always show up. So we're going to now switch over to, because there's some great comments again. Right. So I want to, so we have Allison said ongoing 2-way conversation. Yes. And 3-way, 4. I think we're, having conversations period is so key. Nikki wrote, good luck hiring people to do those cold calls when business dries up. Everyone I talk to is having issues filling these roles.
You shouldn't fill them. Maybe
yeah.
maybe you shouldn't fill them. You know, part of it is, I'm serious. Part of it is, it's like when the miracle salesperson retires or leaves or gets canned because he's making too much, he or she's making too much money, you know, or whatever. Part of it, and Darren Mitchell talks about this, the default setting is to go back and go look for what you just got rid of or what's not there anymore. Re-engineer the process. You know, the real relationships with manufacturers these days are happening online and in the business itself. You know, it's not the who's knocking on the door and can I bring you a cheese plate, you know, once in a while, or stop thinking 20 years ago. So, you know, my advice is take the opportunity to re-engineer the process, because, you know, what are you going to do if the hiring climate doesn't miraculously turn around? You're going to stop selling? You're going to give up on growth? No. What are you going to do? Solve for X.
Yes. You know what? If, you know, you can't, and the other saying is like, well, we've always done it this way. I've heard that. And I remember I had a boss once said to me, and he said, if I ever hear you or your staff say that, you'll be fired. Now, he didn't really mean it that way, but it was, the message landed that, you know, don't come to him with, if the answer is, well, why are you doing that? Well, we've always done it. You better have a reason for doing it. I'm going to go back. There's so many comments here. It's hard to keep up, but we have, I know when we went back, Bonnie had wrote, ouch, that statement hurts. I'm not really sure what that was related to, so we'll keep going. I think it was, I don't know. We'll go back to that. When we re-listen, we can hear that.
I don't want to make Bonnie mad.
Yeah, she says, if you're not doing it, you're avoiding it. So I think she recovered and basically saying, yeah, so it turned around. Allison did a little emoji, we'll try to go back. I'm probably confusing. Sorry, Ingar, because I was going reverse and then I'm like, we do know there's lots. So I will say to everybody, please look back over all the comments. Bonnie wrote, if you don't own your space, someone else will.
Amen to that.
That one is so true. Because if you're not, so, and the other thing is there's room for more than one person too in certain areas. Like, you know, manufacturing and marketing, guess what? There's more room. There's room for enough people, and there's so much opportunity. Same with sales. I spent a year fundraising when people said it was, you know, there was no money. It was during the recession. And I said, the money's there. It's just in different pockets. You have to find the new pockets where the money is. And, you know, I managed to, over the course of a year, we raised with the campaign cabinet $1 million when people said it's going to be so difficult. Yeah. It wasn't easy, but it was about, you know, that's where I really learned about that assessment of there's enough to go around. You just have to find where it is.
Well, it could grow in the pie too. You know, one of the favorite sayings from Henry Ford is, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. You know, so attitude plays such a big role. The funny thing with manufacturers, and I blame a little bit of the visibility that marketing has provided to them, because, you know, I get it. One of the big things that marketing professionals can do is say, boy, we can get you seen by, you know, pick a number, this huge number of people and zillions of likes and stuff like that. And what a lot of manufacturers forget about sometimes, that are particularly in the job shop space, is they don't need 1,000 new customers. The reality is, if they had 3 to 5 in some manageable time frame, it would have an overwhelmingly, hopefully positive impact on their business. And it sure as hell drive top line. And if you do it right, meaning you talk to me, you can do it very profitably and sequence that growth, you know, in there. Yes. So you're not talking a big numbers game. It's not.
And, you know, I'm just doing some work in this area in the world of SEO, search engine optimization, and also looking at, at targeting your content. And again, not trying to be all things to everyone too. That's really key in business and in when you're planning out your content, as well as trying to be targeted. So you are attracting the right people.
Here's what I learned this year with my social media stuff. Look at who is responding and who is following. And this was, I wrote to Allison the moment I saw it. I knew my messaging was on track when I started connecting with and being followed by people I would like to do business with. You know what I mean? Instead of, and not, I value all of my connections, but I try to curate it. I take the ones that, that are coming in. But when I started seeing the mix shift towards more and more executives and people within manufacturing companies that I can have an impact on, I knew I was on message.
And that's interesting because that's what's happening, especially on LinkedIn, is that there's a lot of lurkers out there too that, I've heard this, that people have been contacted by people at trade shows and they actually haven't ever commented, but they've been watching you and they know what you're doing. And that's what I find fascinating about social too. Not everybody, you don't see everybody till all of a sudden you'll get a note from someone or they've reached out. So you're like, whoa, who is this person? So
Exactly.
So we have Nikki wrote, let the market self-select. John wrote, we need to stop boiling the ocean.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yep.
Everybody's our target. The total available market is the world. If we just had 1%,
Yeah, I love that saying. We need to stop boiling the ocean. That's very clever. Alexander wrote, hello from Ohio. And then Nikki said, we shouldn't be afraid of competition either. If the only reason people buy from you is that they don't know what else is out there, you are not doing business the right way.
That's true. Think about competition. There's I should post this online. Think of it in terms of a Venn diagram. You've got what you do and all the cool stuff that you do and what makes your company unique. You got the market, the customer base that's out there, and you've got your competition. What really matters is you stay focused in that area where you overlap with the stuff that your customer base really values. The things that your competition does that you don't do, don't go after them. They've got an itch. Spend your time in your lane. The stuff that you and your competition both do together, but your market doesn't value, don't waste your time. Nobody cares. It's just know what your value proposition is and go after it. Doesn't matter who's in there. If you do it better than the other guys, show up.
You know what? That is good. And that ties into one of Allison's comments, which is positioning and owning your lane also makes marketing 100 times easier and faster. And I agree, because once you know, it's like going on a road trip. Once you know where you're going, right, and you know where you need to get to, you can maybe decide a little bit about the road you're going to take, but it really helps make it easier. Making meaningful content for the people who will care. So true. Allison, you're singing my tune as well. It's meaningful content is so important. Then we have ongoing two-way conversation. Allison's dropping lots of great comments.
Dropping the wisdom.
Bonnie writes, help your sales team get it done. Get her done. I agree. Right. Nikki writes, new innovations are critical. Things are changing too fast to sit by doing things the same way we have in the past, which we talked about. Allison writes, consistency breeds familiarity. Familiarity builds trust. Yes, trust is another key part. Bonnie writes, the company needs to shape the conversation. Sorry, you're going to say something, right?
No, I agree. Once you have that, you have that trust, don't give up on them. The other thing I run into is so many people that I talk to, they have an awesome customer base and they want to grow, and their initial thought is they've got to go find new industries, and new customers. And it's like, what are you in the insurance business where you treat new customers better than the ones you have? And I've had examples where I've gone in, well, these are our top 5 customers. And I start doing some research and I find that, 3 of those top 5 customers have 30 other locations that this company could be selling to because they're already in the vendor base.
Right.
Start there.
Start with the low-hanging fruit, and I agree, really cultivating and building on the relationships you have, right, instead of just chasing new. That's a really good tip as well, especially even from sales, and this ties into how I see there's something called social network theory, right, when it comes to social media, where you can actually have doors open by using the network, building on your network, expanding that to a certain degree, but then getting to people who know people, right? That can
Right.
help you, as opposed to seeing, again, starting out of the cold calls. You can actually start with people you know that will open doors.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, Allison also, like Darren Mitchell also says, things have changed when they trust the man in the phone more than the 6-foot dude sitting in front of you.
Right. Yeah, right.
And Bonnie, I think, wrote related to social media. Oh, that might have been one of the other earlier comments. Okay, so we have, and then Bonnie wrote, silent lurkers are everywhere. Yes. But you know what? I think that's fascinating because again, there's opportunity because so many people are consumers, not producers. And I've noticed this when I jumped into starting with TikTok, and I was like at first more of a consumer. And then I thought, you know what, now I throw stuff out there, and it truly is about learning and growing. Because I figure if I'm going to work in social media, I need to learn and understand all of the platforms and how they work, even if I don't use them to are my ideal clients on TikTok? Maybe not yet, but I am finding, that's what's interesting. There's a lot of lurkers on TikTok now that are.
Somebody wrote, I wish I could give proper attribution to it. They said there's a 95-5 rule, that at any given time, 5% of the market you really want to talk to is active in the market and ready to buy. The other 95 is consuming and interested, and keeping it in mind until it's their turn to be active in the market. And I think there's something to that.
That makes sense, because I think we all do that. We see something, we're reading, we're learning, and then this was the one thing that I've worked in insurance in the past, insurance and tech, right, in that world. So one of the things that we did with insurance is that there is really not really any one peak time that people are buying insurance. There's usually, it's a bit busier in the spring because that's when people buy houses and things like that, but it's all year round. But people don't make a decision about changing their insurance only when their insurance is coming up. That is when they actually will maybe change. But they've seen messages all year round, or they're reading content. And I find myself, I have done this with following companies that have great content, and all of a sudden I'm like, or you'll reach out to someone and they provide you with help, and then when all of a sudden too, you may be unhappy with your current supplier. Bam, you're ready to move.
I've got a great story about this, and this is as of like yesterday. I had a new follower reach out. Her name is Sarah Tui. She's with a company called Humatics, Humatics. It was an MIT founded company, just came out of stealth, do some really, really sophisticated AI, related stuff. And she reached out. At first I was kind of like, interesting, because I'm a tech geek, the curiosity thing. So she reached out. I accepted, the invitation to connect. And then we just started kind of writing back and forth to each other. This is last night. I'm having a bourbon, and I'm like, okay. So we had the most awesome conversation. She's like, here's what we're doing, and we're kind of trying to get attention of manufacturers. And we just went back and forth for a while about it. And I was like, well, here's what I would do, and it was just such an awesome conversation. And it's like, I really felt like I made a great connection. I didn't pitch her. Neither one of us pitched anybody, on anything. It was just, an idea exchange, is the thing, and just kind of sharing some perspective. And it was like, at the end of it, we probably spent a half an hour going back and forth, just swapping some. Have you tried this? Have you looked at here? Have you considered these things? Do you have any, examples of this? I got to learn a whole ton about some new technology that is coming into manufacturing, and when it finds its niche and its place, it's pretty disruptive. So to me, that was cool. That scratched the curiosity itch, and here was somebody who was a sales pro that works with these big name integrators trying to figure out how manufacturers tick. Why wouldn't I have that conversation? Because at some point, maybe maybe it leads to something. But it it was really enjoyable. And that to me, that's part of the being out there and using social media, not just to, oh, here's something cool about us. Engage. Have
Engage.
a conversation. It's talk to them. Not all of them are going to be home runs, but this was somebody I valued connecting with, and she had some questions that I could help answer. So what's the problem?
Ray, that is what also makes you, though, so what makes you the manufacturing unicorn too, because it is about doing things differently, and it's not just a one-way conversation of posting and because it would be, again, if in real life, when you meet someone, if you just spewed sales stuff out and said, "Hi, this is my company. You want to buy a beer?" And a lot of people that I know, especially in sales and manufacturing, would never do that. Yet I see them, they feel they have, if they do start to post, they want to just here's what we do, here's our company. And I'm like, if anything, start with engaging. And you know what? Greg Michio is writing about this and talking about this. And it's fascinating because the more that, and I know Jake Hall talks about this too, is that, taking some time for engaging with people, talking to people, and not just get away from that one track, I've got to sell. What if you just decided to share information, meet cool people?
Yeah.
And isn't that the key to really great salespeople, is building relationships?
Well, you know what? I've been at this long enough to know the old timers that used to keep the notebook, that knew the buyers, when the buyer's kid was, when their birthdays were, and who was about to graduate from, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that was one level. But today, the other side of it is, as you say, the sharing side of information. And it's a little tricky in the manufacturing space because, I came out of a world where it was like, we don't let anybody tour the factory because what we have here is proprietary. That's like, what, you drill holes? It's like, so it's, there are ways to share the innovations that you're doing without giving away the store. Don't put up that wall. And that's the other thing. And Greg Michio is beautiful on this, because the stuff he gives away online, the first time I saw it, I'm like, dude, somebody can do what you should be charging for. And he doesn't put up that wall where it's like, give me your social security number, the name of your firstborn child, all of that until I send you a PDF. It's like, no, here, it's on the site, download it, go nuts. And
well, I have cleaning products down in my kitchen, and I have a vacuum and a broom, but I tell you, I have someone that will come clean my house, and I treasure this person. But that's just one example. You're right. It's like, there's lots of things people can. I say that about cooking too. Like, I don't really like. I've got, why can't I cook more, make more meals? It's because I've got all the ingredients. And I think that's what people miss, is that you can tell people. I'll give you one short story, because I ran a bed and breakfast, and I make these very special biscuits. And I actually did a blog about that, because part of my brand when I owned the bed and breakfast was I started this thing, home of Gail's famous homemade biscuits. Now I can give people the recipe, I can tell people, but I tell you, they would come back, they'd still want my biscuits, because people, you can tell people, but no one can quite do things sometimes. The reason we go to people that are experts or that do certain things a certain way is that they are special in how they do it, and we can't do everything.
Yeah. Well, here's the key for manufacturers today. What I tell companies that I talk to that are still kind of subscribing to it's proprietary. Here's your competitive advantage. What you have that no one else has is your unique domain expertise, your company culture, and your ability to innovate. And as long as you are constantly reinforcing and feeding those three pillars, you'll be in business for 1,000 years.
And why curiosity and innovation. And I want to do a shout out here to Natalie Gregg, who really helped me, because for the longest while, I didn't think that my curiosity was anything special until more and more people said, no, you are so curious. And she said, curiosity, that's where I really looked at connecting curiosity to innovation. I want to go back to some comments, because we have some great ones here.
Awesome.
So we have, let's go back to, we had, Bonnie said silent lurkers are everywhere. Yes, they are definitely everywhere. And then Allison, right, exactly, Gail. It is said that 100% of the content put out on LinkedIn, for example, is created by only 5% of users. The rest are watching. That is, Allison, I know that on LinkedIn, there's so many people watching. So why, if you even post once a week, I often tell people, you can post daily, you can post, but engage, do something. And just by doing something, I always say that when it comes to working out, walking around the block puts you further ahead than a lot of people. So thank you. And I want to there's a good Allison comment coming up. I'm like, oh God, I think she might have to be a feature on my show. Oh yeah. Okay, wait a minute. No, let's
don't do that.
That was good. Okay, Bonnie wrote, if people eat with their eyes, they buy with their eyes too. Easy math. Okay, here we go. Mic drop moment from Allison DeFord is in the house. He said, it's a lot like dating. You don't meet someone, say, hello, nice to meet you, let's have sex. Oh, you don't? No, I'm kidding.
It's called college.
Allison, we've sort of skirted around on social, but I have to get to know Allison better. I'm like, okay, Allison, we must, I think we're going to have a Zoom call or something.
With wine.
Yeah, with wine. Okay. Oh, I like it even better. Marcus wrote, good point on social media, Ray. With many companies putting a hard pause on in-person visits, LinkedIn has been my best friend. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Marcus. That is great.
And virtual selling, shout out to Mark Allen Roberts. The challenge with, virtual selling was dropped on us with the COVID situation. And the expectation was transition all of your salespeople to doing it virtually. By the way, we're not going to train you to do it. So good luck and hit your numbers. That
is, and let's touch, and I know we could, oh my God, we're going to probably have to wrap up soon, but man, there's so much wisdom here today, Ray. I knew it. You would be my great January kind of.
Let's go.
We talked about trust last week, and now having you on here with
it's the year of the tiger. Letlet's go.
Yes. Woo. Now I forgot what my question was. What was I going to ask you?
Wrapping up.
Wrapping up before that. What were you just saying? You were just saying about the
training.
Oh, training. Yes. Thank you. Buzzword there. So a lot of times, even if you start training, here's a question for you. There is resistance to actually get out on social. We sort of talked about this a bit earlier. So what would you say to those people that say, social media is just what people eat. It's, it's dumb. I've even heard this, that TikTok is stupid, all those things. So what would you say about that when you hear that from salespeople?
It's a change management problem. I mean, I can be mad about it and say you're wrong and everything, but what's behind that is probably fear and lack of knowledge, because it's going to force them out of a habit that they've had for a very long time. And they're going to have to learn and do some new things with tools they may not have competency with. And the older you get, the less you want to look like an idiot. That's kind of just part of it, unless you embrace it, at certain times, because it's part of the satisfying the curiosity and the learning side of it. Hey, the first time you do anything, you suck at it, but if you're committed to, listen, my why is because I want to help, people come to my company and do whatever it is, and you're willing to retrain or pick up some new knowledge around that or some new skills, then it's not so scary. So yeah, I'm kind of done. I'm kind of done saying, "Well, that's stupid," and embracing I get it. You're afraid of change. I understand.
Yeah.
Let's deal with that.
And as Alice said, training is and I agree. I think it is training, but I also go back to that, my 3 step, which is sign up. If you have to have the right mindset, because you can also do, say, whether it's fitness, whether it's doing any change in your life, getting on social, you have to decide that you want to do it, and you're going to put some pieces in place, because it's like setting goals, right? It's easy to set a goal. It's a lot harder to set up those objectives that will help you get to that goal.
And add to that, we're in an environment that is changing incredibly rapidly. I had a chat with Inger before the show started, and it was like the notion of lifelong learning. 30, 40 years ago, if you weren't in tech, because tech has always been this, you constantly have to train to stay current. in other areas, it was mostly, yeah, there might be some training once or twice a year, at work. But the rest of our, in terms of the whole lifelong learning to keep up with what's going on in society, it might be, your exercise and understanding of your faith, where you are at different milestones with your family, and stuff like that. But here we are, 2022, in a world that's going around us, like a hurricane. And a lot of us, if you've been around a while, there was a period when it wasn't like this, and now it is. So it's like, well, what are you going to do? Well, part of that adapting is getting comfortable with continuously learning about new stuff where you can use those things to have an impact, at work or wherever else that happens to be. But the rate of change in our environment isn't going to lighten up. So the challenge to all of us is, what are we doing to figure out how to adapt and thrive in that environment? So that's one of the challenges.
Adaptation is so key. And, as someone who I always find, like, Twitter has been my baby. Like, I've done a lot of work on Twitter. And here, just recently, I made a suggestion to a client about, really, you should only use 3 hashtags, And of course, I got pushed back, like, why is that? And so I went to go look. Well, there is some new information. It's now saying, actually, there's some stats that indicate so, I had to go look up, because the last time I had done my hashtag list was that 3 would be the max, and there's a whole, and it really helped me see too that it's constantly learning. And social media, just when you think you have some of these platforms that you understand them, they're going to flip it around and make you learn something new. So
I get it. Yeah, we're remember, on the social media platforms, we are the product.
Yes. And, but, doing something, again, that goes back. I think, if anything, I want to go through a couple of tips that we talked about today, just to do a wrap up. You said own your lane. I think that's brilliant. It's okay to say no. In fact, I would say it's almost detrimental if you don't learn to say no. You need to learn that. And that the sales business and business development marketing is a managed process. And that is also key. We need to look at the training and how to manage that, because it is a process. And here's the thing, manufacturing is all about process. And I've spent some time a lot in, like, mold making, tool making, and engineering. They all understand process. And guess what? It applies to how you show up as well. And sharing your story. It's process.
Yeah. And that's language they understand. You've got to find ways you've got to make that connection, that translation. And that's key. That's key. Once again, Ray, you're right, Gail.
Well, I cannot thank you enough, Ray, for coming on, spending the time. I know, you are also a busy guy, and I really appreciate you. I love your one-liners. I loved your direct approach. I know why you and Allison work together. That's like amazing. So we'll do a shout out, and we'll drop the link in the comments. Maybe Allison can drop the link to your podcast, because if people aren't listening, please go subscribe and give a review, and just, because that's so vital, that we need to celebrate what's happening in manufacturing. I know, Jake Hall is doing that on LinkedIn, has got his foot in the door with getting manufacturing on the radar with LinkedIn, doing these types of live shows. Also, we need to start saying, also celebrating the people who make things that make things, because that is what makes the world go round. So thank you, Ray. I will see you in the green room. Is there anything else you'd like to wrap up, say, before we wrap up today?
You know what? I'm a passionate fan and supporter of all things manufacturing. So anybody that's listening or has interest and wants to have a conversation, I love nothing more than talking shop. I promise no pitch, but what an awesome industry to be in. This is going to be a phenomenal year. We got to put some work into it, but what an opportunity ahead of us. So let's go get it.
Let's go get it. I love that. Thank you, Ray. I'll meet you back in the green room.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Gail.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Wow. You know what? Every time I talk to Ray, whether, even if it's just a communication online or, talking to them on a show like this. You just get so energized. I want to thank everybody for the comments today. Thank you so much for showing up. It's so valuable that we can celebrate the manufacturing unicorn, Ray Ziganto, and also celebrate each of you that are doing amazing things in manufacturing. So I'm going to be having more guests coming on and also talking about, asking that question, do you need help telling your story? As a recovering journalist, one of the things that I really work to achieve is pulling out those stories from people, because there is so much that we need to share and celebrate in the manufacturing world. So please reach out to me. Let's talk. If you have a story that you need sharing, or you know of a company even that may need some help with, showing up in this digital world. We aren't going to be going backwards. Things are changing at a rapid pace. Social media is a tool that we all have at our disposal. Often we hear that it's free. Yes and no, there are free tools, yes, but it's really in the content that we're putting together and how you can help tell your story. And we all need help sometimes with that. So please reach out and talk. You can find me here on LinkedIn. Also, I have some previous shows listed on my YouTube channel at GailNow. You can pretty well find me most places as GailNow. Also, Instagram, GailNow1, GailNow on TikTok. Please drop some comments and share there too. And if you have, as I said, any questions, please reach out. And you can find me through email as well, gail@gailnow.com. And Twitter, how could I forget? Twitter is usually where I am most active in dropping some engaging comments there. So I look forward to seeing all of you online and continuing to engage and connect. So have a great day, afternoon, morning, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for tuning in.